Okay, video number 3 for my minerals for my Nutrition 300 class. Sodium and potassium can literally be taught in the same video. They're very much the same nutrient. You use them primarily for nerve impulses, muscle relaxation, muscle contraction, electrolyte balance. The big difference is location and food source. So in the body, generally sodium is outside of the cell. So they're not in cells, they're outside of cells. We call that extracellular. And it's the primary reason that when you sweat, you're mostly sweating out sodium and chloride. And by the way, we don't teach chloride in nutrition. I don't know any instructor who does. And pretty much the reason is wherever sodium goes, chloride goes with it, right? So when you sweat, you get these salt. I mean, if you're really sweating and then you cool off, you can have almost salt on the outside of your skin. That's going to be sodium, not potassium, because it's harder to get rid of potassium out of the body via sweat because it's inside of cells, okay? So then it comes to food sources. Well, it's the same kind of thing. Potassium is generally found in whole foods. You can find it in processed foods, but it's less likely to be in processed foods. Although, is milk a processed food? That's for debate of the ages since it is pasteurized. But sodium, on the other hand, if it's in a box or a bag or a can, it has sodium. And for a number of reasons, enhancing flavor. Sodium holds water and keeps bacteria from getting access to water. So that's why it's a great food preservation technique is to salt foods. It holds onto the water. Bacteria need water. Bacteria can't grow because the sodium's holding onto the water. So processed foods are a very robust source of sodium. Whole foods are a very robust source of potassium. Deficiency, they're both kind of weird, you know, cramps, muscle issues, lethargy, exhaustion, you know, your muscles will cramp up. You might have some muscle pain. Toxicity is really the big difference. So it's hard to get toxicity from potassium, and I'll get to that in a second. Sodium is different. You will develop toxicity. You could argue that every American right now has some toxicity of sodium because we consume so much of it. Sodium holds on to water. If you consume a lot of sodium, you'll start to hold on to water. That can cause like subtle edema, extreme edema. But if you put more fluid in a pipe, blood pressure will go up. And it's not me making this argument. The argument has been made by cardiologists now for decades. Almost every American probably has a blood pressure value higher than it should be because we eat too much sodium. And in some people who are salt sensitive, if they consume a lot of sodium, they can really spike their blood pressure. So that's the biggest concern. Other folks have argued if you consume a lot of sodium, you pee a lot of sodium, we may be peeing a lot of calcium. So they say that sodium intake in great amounts could cause osteoporosis long term. Okay, maybe that's kind of debatable. The blood pressure issue is not debatable. Again, here's our whole foods. There's not a lot in there. You look at processed foods like a pickle or tomato juice, or you know, some cheeses are made with a lot of sodium. Ham, you know, deli meats, acting as a preservative. Whole foods, not a lot. Processed foods have a lot. Potassium, it's like I said, it's the opposite, right? These are all the whole foods. They're great sources. What I need to dispel in your mind is bananas are a great source of potassium. They're a good source. Potatoes are a great source. And when you do these kind of like century bike rides where they have like usually a nice spread for the riders at about the 60-mile mark, it's not uncommon to see boiled potato wedges covered in sodium. You lose a lot of sodium cycling. You do lose some potassium. And by the way, potatoes are a great source of carbohydrate. So not a bad mid-bike ride meal, boiled potatoes with salt. Okay, functions are the same. Deficiency is a little more, you know, having outright potassium deficiency is probably rare to hard to do. So weakness, cramping, again, very kind of, how would you know you had it? You probably wouldn't. Toxicity is interesting. You can get potassium toxicity, but that would have to be due with extreme intakes of supplements. And supplements, by the way, typically don't have a lot of potassium in them. Or like trying to kill somebody in a TV murder mystery by injecting potassium into their bloodstream. I mean, yeah, that could happen, right? All things being equal, most Americans don't eat that much potassium to ever cause toxicity. We worry about inadequate potassium intake and excessive sodium intake. And when you do your diet projects in this class and you use MyFitnessPal, I'm going to bet 99% of my students overconsume sodium and underconsume potassium. That is the way of the force in America. And that's it for this video.